Hydrogen-rich water. What studies show about dosages and benefits. Hydrogen-rich water, sometimes called hydrogen water, is ordinary drinking water that has extramolecular hydrogen, H2, dissolved in it. For decades, researchers have been exploring whether this hydrogen gas has health benefits. Because hydrogen is a very small molecule, it can readily enter cells and tissues. Scientists think H2 may act as an antioxidant, neutralizing harmful free radicals, and reduce inflammation. In this article, we summarize human studies on hydrogen water, listing each study's dosage, conditions tested, design, and main findings. We cover areas like metabolic health, athletic performance, neurological conditions, oxidative stress, and even eye health, glaucoma. Wherever possible, we note exactly how much hydrogen water was used and what results were seen. What is hydrogen-rich water? Hydrogen-rich water is made by dissolving hydrogen gas, H2, into water. This can be done by electrolysis, breaking water into hydrogen and oxygen, or by adding a magnesium stick or tablet that reacts to release hydrogen. People drink it just like normal water. Because hydrogen gas is tasteless and odorless, hydrogen water tastes the same as regular water. A typical dose in studies ranges from about 0.5 liter to 1.5 liters per day, often split into smaller servings. The actual amount of H2 gas in that water can vary by method, e.g. how many milligrams of H2 per liter, but most trials report volumes consumed. Humans naturally produce small amounts of hydrogen in the gut, but supplemental hydrogen water can raise blood hydrogen levels. Importantly, hydrogen gas is very non-toxic. At high concentrations, it is safe to breathe, and drinking hydrogen-saturated water has shown no serious side effects in trials. Typically, studies explicitly report that hydrogen water was safe and well tolerated by participants. One study in Parkinson's patients discussed below specifically noted that drinking 1,000 milliliters per day of H2 water for nearly a year was safe. Metabolic and blood sugar studies. Many studies have looked at hydrogen water for metabolic health, especially glucose control, diabetes, cholesterol, and metabolic syndrome issues. For example, a 2023 randomized trial in China tested hydrogen water in people with impaired fasting glucose pre-diabetes. 73 patients were split into two groups. One drank 1,000 milliliters per day of hydrogen-rich water, and the other drank 1,000 milliliters plain water for 8 weeks. Both groups saw some drop in fasting blood sugar, but the drop was significantly larger in the hydrogen water group by week 8. Even more striking, among those with fatty liver, 62.5% of the hydrogen water group achieved remission of fatty liver symptoms versus 31.6% of the plain water group. The hydrogen group also showed changes in gut bacteria that may be beneficial. In short, this trial found that 1 liter of H2 water daily modestly improved blood glucose and liver fat compared to placebo. An earlier open-label pilot, no placebo, gave 1.5 to 2.0 L day of hydrogen water for 8 weeks to 20 overweight adults at risk of metabolic syndrome. Participants consumed about 300 to 400 milliliters 5 times per day, about 1.5 liters total. After 4 to 8 weeks, their good HDL cholesterol had risen by 8%, and the ratio of total cholesterol to HDL had fallen by 13%. Antioxidant markers improved too. One key enzyme, superoxide dismutase, rose significantly from baseline to 8 weeks. There were no major changes in blood sugar in this small pilot, but the cholesterol changes suggest that routine H2 water was linked to a better lipid profile. The big picture from multiple studies is that hydrogen water may help aspects of metabolic syndrome and blood lipids. A 2024 meta-analysis, combining many trials, concluded that hydrogen water was associated with small but significant reductions in total cholesterol, triglycerides, and LDL, bad cholesterol, in metabolic syndrome patients. HDL usually did not change. However, effects vary by study and often the improvements are modest. For instance, some trials show blood sugar and insulin improvements only in certain groups or after many weeks. Impaired glucose and diabetes. One crossover trial in Japan 2008 gave 36 patients with type 2 diabetes or impaired glucose tolerance from tolerance 900 milliliters per day of hydrogen water or placebo for 8 weeks, then switched after a washout. In that study, markers of oxidative stress and glucose control improved with hydrogen water. In the IFG trial above, the 1 daily liter of H2 water significantly beat plain water in lowering fasting glucose. Together, these suggest hydrogen water could be a helpful adjunct in prediabetes or mild diabetes, but more research is needed. Metabolic syndrome. In an unruly trial of people with metabolic syndrome, Japanese study, some benefits were seen only in subgroups. For example, a 2024 trial used an electrolyzed hydrogen water machine to produce H2 water for 3 months. Overall, the primary goal, reducing waist circumference, did not significantly differ between the hydrogen versus placebo groups. But when examining just those with high physical activity, the hydrogen water group saw greater drops in waist size and inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein than controls. Also, in that study, the hydrogen group prevented rises in oxidative stress markers, 8-OHDG, nitrotyrosine, that occurred in placebo. This suggests hydrogen water might help offset exercise-related oxidative stress in at-risk people. Summary: metabolic. Overall, drinkable hydrogen has been tested mainly in mild metabolic disorders. Key points: daily doses are often 0.5 to 1.5 liters, given for 4 to 12 weeks. Observed outcomes include slight improvements in blood glucose and lipids compared to placebo. For example, fasting glucose and fatty liver markers improved more with hydrogen water in an 8-week trial. Good cholesterol, HDL, rose, and cholesterol ratios improved in an 8-week pilot. In contrast, blood pressure and waist measures have shown mixed results. Researchers believe the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects of H2 may underlie these changes. Patients should note these are not cures, but some trials do find measurable benefit in metabolic health. Athletic performance and recovery. Hydrogen water has attracted attention in sports science as a potential sports drink for faster recovery and better performance due to its antioxidant effects on exercise-induced fatigue. Several trials and some reviews have been published. Elite athletes, 28-day trial. In a 2025 double-blind trial of elite female athletes, handball and skeleton players, one group took hydrogen-generating tablets dissolved in water each day for 28 days, while another took placebo tablets. After 4 weeks, the hydrogen group showed significantly better muscle recovery. They had increased muscle mass and reduced body fat percentage compared to placebo. After an intense exercise test, their muscle torque, strength, was 12.6% higher than before the study and higher than the placebo group. Blood tests also showed lower markers of muscle damage, creatine kinase, and shifts in antioxidants, e.g. higher vitamin E, in the H2 group. In plain terms, these elite athletes ended the trial with leaner bodies and stronger muscle output when they had been drinking hydrogen water. Strength training 8-day crossover. A 2024 study had 36 resistance-trained men perform heavy leg exercises while drinking either hydrogen water or placebo, each for 8 days in a crossover design. Those 8 days of hydrogen water led to a significant increase in total work capacity. The H2 group averaged 50,867 watt-seconds total power versus 46,431 BUMS for placebo, p equals 0.032. They also did more reps on the final set of squats, 78.2 versus 70.3 reps, p.9. In short, just over a week of H2 water, specifically timed around workouts, boosted muscular endurance. However, soreness recovery was not clearly improved in this short study. Repeated high-intensity exercise. Another trial gave physically active men hydrogen water to drink over 3 days of grueling exercise. The result was that H2 water prevented the usual drop in blood antioxidant capacity that occurs with heavy training. The control group saw a sharp fall in their blood antioxidant levels, whereas the H2 group's levels stayed up. This suggests hydrogen water can blunt oxidative stress during multi-day intense exercise bouts. Not all findings are positive games. Some studies of single acute doses show no performance improvement. For example, one trial found that drinking hydrogen water before a maximal running test did not extend runtime in trained runners. In general, studies with longer supplementation, days to weeks, are more likely to show benefit than one-off drinks immediately before exercise. Summary: performance. In practice, athletes in studies often drank 1 to 1.5 liters per day of hydrogen water, often split around workouts, for periods from 1 week to a month. Reported benefits include less muscle fatigue and damage, improved recovery, and small gains in strength or endurance. For example, muscle torque and power output improved in one 28-day trial and total work done in an 8-day trial. The evidence suggests hydrogen may help buffer the oxidative stress caused by heavy training, but results can depend on training load and timing. Athletes should remember that these effects were generally modest. This is not a magic bullet, but it may support recovery when combined with good nutrition and rest. Neurodegenerative and cognitive conditions. Researchers have also explored hydrogen water for brain health and neurodegenerative diseases, given H2's proposed neuroprotective antioxidant action. A few human studies, mostly small, give early insights. Parkinson's disease, PD. A small Japanese pilot RCT, double-blind, gave 17 Parkinson's patients 1,000 milliliters per day of hydrogen water or placebo for 48 weeks. The result was encouraging. The hydrogen water group's total Parkinson's score, UPDRS, improved slightly, mean change 5.7 points, while the placebo groups worsened, plus 4.1 points. Despite the small size, this difference was statistically significant. There were no safety issues noted. In summary, long-term hydrogen water drinking improved PD symptoms in this pilot trial. Larger trials are ongoing, but this pilot suggests a possible disease-modifying effect, possibly by reducing oxidative damage in neurons. Mild cognitive impairment, MCI, early dementia. A 2018 trial gave 73 older adults with cognitive impairment either hydrogen water, 1 ml per day, or control water for 1 year. Overall, there was no statistically significant difference in cognitive test scores, ADAS-Cog, between the groups after 1 year. However, a closer look showed that genetic high-risk participants benefited among those carrying the APOE4 gene, a risk factor for Alzheimer's. The hydrogen water group improved significantly in memory scores compared to controls. In other words, the benefit was subtle and may appear only in certain subgroups. The trial's authors suggest that people with APOE4-linked oxidative stress might respond better to the antioxidant effect of H2. More research is needed, but this hints that hydrogen water could have neuroprotective effects in vulnerable individuals. No large phase 3 trials have yet shown hydrogen water cures neurodegenerative diseases, but small trials like these indicate it's safe and potentially helpful over months. Researchers often note that studies so far are small and preliminary. Summary neuro. The existing human trials in Parkinson's and cognitive impairment used about 1 ml per day of H2 water for many months. In Parkinson's disease, 30 number of patient, 1 year of hydrogen water slowed symptom progression compared to placebo. In MCI, 1 year use had no overall effect, but did improve memory scores in APOE4 carriers. These findings point to possible gains and underline that oxidative stress reduction may benefit brain cells. However, these trials were small. Larger controlled studies are still needed to confirm benefits and optimal dosing. Antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. Many applications of hydrogen water are based on its ability to alter oxidative stress and inflammation. Some human studies directly measured these. Healthy adults, anti-inflammatory. A 2020 trial gave 38 healthy adults high amounts of hydrogen water, 1.5 liters per day, or plain water for 4 weeks. The result was that in the H2 group, markers of inflammation and cell death in the blood decreased significantly versus the plain water group. Specifically, gene networks related to innate immunity, TLR-NF-κB signaling, were downregulated by hydrogen water. Clinically, this appeared as fewer inflammatory molecules and less immune cell apoptosis in the H2 group. In summary, 1.5 liters of H2 water daily for 4 weeks reduced inflammation markers in healthy people. Heavy exercise, antioxidant capacity. In athletes undergoing 3 straight days of severe sprint exercise, hydrogen water, timed around workouts, was shown to prevent the usual fall in total antioxidant capacity that occurs after intense exercise. In other words, the group drinking hydrogen water maintained higher blood antioxidant levels even under stress, suggesting hydrogen bolstered the body's defenses against exercise-induced oxidative damage. Smoking and metabolic syndrome trials. In the metabolic syndrome pilot above, oxidative stress markers were measured. That study saw increases in antioxidant enzyme activity, like SOD, and trends toward lower lipid peroxidation products after 8 weeks of hydrogen water. Another pilot in diabetic patients using H2 water reported reductions in a marker of oxidative DNA damage. These collectively indicate hydrogen water tends to improve blood antioxidant status and reduce markers of cell damage in subjects under metabolic or oxidative stress. Summary: oxidative inflammation. Most of these studies used 1 to 2 lp/day of H2 water for several weeks. The consistent finding is that hydrogen water supports the body's antioxidant system and calms inflammatory signaling. For patients with metabolic syndrome or smokers, studies observed increased antioxidant enzymes, like SOD, and reduced oxidative markers after H2 water. In healthy people doing hard exercise, H2 water helped keep antioxidant levels high. In short, hydrogen water seems to act as an indirect antioxidant in humans. Rather than donating electrons itself, it upregulates the body's own defenses and gene pathways that fight inflammation. This is likely the underlying reason for the small health improvements seen in many trials. Eye health and glaucoma. Interest has arisen in whether hydrogen can protect the eyes, which are vulnerable to oxidative damage. Most evidence here is from animal models or theoretical discussion. For example, reviews speculate H2 could mitigate oxidative stress in glaucoma or diabetic retinopathy. However, human data are extremely limited. One small human study did look at eye response. In this study, 24 healthy volunteers each consumed 1,260 milliliters of hydrogen water versus plain water in a randomized crossover trial. They found that drinking either led to a transient rise in intraocular pressure, IOP, simply from the fluid intake itself. Importantly, the IOP increase was often greater after hydrogen water. 58% of subjects had a large rise than after plain water, 25%. In other words, gulping a lot of liquid caused eye pressure to climb, and it was more pronounced with hydrogen water. The study concluded that acute intake of hydrogen-rich water raised eye pressure more than regular water and cautioned that people with glaucoma or ocular hypertension should be careful. The mechanism for the extra rise is unclear. It might relate to a mild vasodilatory effect of H2 or just chance. Aside from that, clinical trials in glaucoma patients have not been done. Animal studies suggest H2 can protect retinal cells under stress, but human evidence is missing. Therefore, we do not have strong proof that hydrogen water treats glaucoma. In fact, the only clinical finding suggests a potential risk of raising eye pressure with rapid ingestion. Anyone with glaucoma or high eye pressure should talk to their eye doctor before trying hydrogen water, especially in large volumes. Practical dosages and safety. From the studies above, typical doses of hydrogen-rich water ranged from about 0.5 liter to 1.5 to 2.0 liters per day, usually split into multiple servings. For example, metabolic studies often used 900 to 1,000 milliliters per day. Athletic studies sometimes used 2 tablets per day, making twice 1 ill or similar. Studies spanning several weeks, 4 to 12 weeks, are most common. Even short 8-day regimens have shown effects on performance. When tablets or sticks are used, manufacturers usually report how many milligrams of hydrogen are generated per dose, but the key is total water volume containing dissolved H2. All trials have reported that hydrogen water is extremely well tolerated. No serious side effects have been attributed to it. In the Parkinson's trial and others, authors explicitly noted H2 water was safe and well tolerated. Since hydrogen is exhaled unchanged, it doesn't build up in the body, and the doses in water are far below flammable levels. The main safety caution comes from the eye pressure study. Consuming large volumes quickly may raise blood and eye pressure. But a patient drinking normal amounts slowly is unlikely to cause issues. Summary of findings and recommendations. In summary, research on hydrogen-rich water is still emerging, but several consistent findings can be reported for patients. Metabolic health. Some trials find benefits for blood sugar and lipids. Drinking 1 L per day H2 water for a couple of months led to greater reductions in fasting glucose and remission of fatty liver than plain water, and improved cholesterol ratios. These results suggest a modest metabolic boost from hydrogen water, likely via antioxidant effects. Athletic performance. Hydrogen water has shown ergogenic, performance-enhancing effects in controlled trials. For example, 4 weeks of daily H2 water raised muscle mass and torque in elite athletes, and 8 days improved total work on resistance exercises. It likely helps by reducing exercise-induced oxidative damage. However, it is not a guaranteed performance miracle. Not all studies see benefit, especially with only one acute dose. Neurodegenerative conditions. Small trials hint at protection. A year-long study in Parkinson's disease saw symptom improvement with 1 L per day of hydrogen water, and a trial in mild cognitive impairment showed cognitive score improvement in genetic risk patients. These suggest H2 water might slow disease progression by curbing oxidative stress, but larger trials are still needed. Oxidative stress and inflammation. Hydrogen water acts like a general antioxidant booster. Studies in healthy adults found that 1.5 L per day for a month reduced inflammatory markers and cell death rates. It also keeps antioxidant defenses higher during heavy exercise. This broadly means H2 water can help cells resist oxidative damage. For patients, this might translate to modest improvements in conditions driven by inflammation, e.g., metabolic syndrome, high-intensity training, perhaps chronic diseases. Eye health, glaucoma. There is no evidence that hydrogen water cures glaucoma. In fact, rapidly drinking over 1 liter caused eye pressure spikes in most subjects. Glaucoma patients should be cautious. Hydrogen's theoretical benefits to eyes, from animal studies, are still unproven. Until more research, we can't recommend hydrogen water as a glaucoma treatment. In conclusion, hydrogen-rich water has promising but preliminary evidence in several health areas. Patients should understand that most results so far are modest. It is not a proven cure for any serious condition, but rather a possible supplementary therapy. If choosing to try hydrogen water using 1.5 L per day spread out is common in studies. It appears safe for most people, but owners of glaucoma or similar conditions should consult a doctor first. Importantly, hydrogen water should never replace proven treatments. Always discuss any new therapy with a healthcare provider. More high-quality human trials are needed to fully establish how and when hydrogen water may help. All links to sources are available in the text version of this article. You can find the full article at visualfieldtest.com. Thanks for listening. To check your visual field, click the link at the bottom of this article or visit visualfieldtest.com.